They say your home is your sanctuary, your safe place. I bought my first house, a little ranch-style home from the 70s, at the end of a cul-de-sac because it felt safe and quiet. It seemed like the kind of place where nothing ever happens. I was so wrong. It started with the wrong numbers. Hello? Is anyone there? I'd answer, and there'd be nothing. Just the sound of an open line. Maybe some faint breathing. I'd hang up, thinking it was just a glitch with the phone company. But the calls kept coming. Always late. Always after midnight. Then the calls got specific. My blood went cold. It wasn't a question, it was a statement. He knew I was awake. I slammed the phone down. I started unplugging it at night. A week later, I came home from work and found my back door unlocked. Not open, just unlocked. I was sure I'd locked it. I always locked it. Nothing was taken. Nothing was out of place. But the air in the house felt still. Watched. Like I was standing in someone else's living room. I called the police. They filed a report for attempted breaking and entering. They asked if I had a boyfriend, an ex, or anyone who might have a key. I said no. The officer suggested I get a security system. I did. I got cameras for the front and back doors. I felt better for about 2 days. That's when the notes started. Not in the mail, inside the house. I'd find them tucked under my coffee mug or slipped into the book I was reading. One was just sitting on my pillow. They were written in neat, precise block print. They were never threats. Not exactly. The blue shirt looks nice on you. You should water the fern on the porch. It's looking dry. You sing off-key in the shower, but it's a lovely sound. He was inside while I was sleeping, while I was at work. He was living in the corners of my life, watching, listening. I became a prisoner. I checked closets. I looked under beds. I barricaded my bedroom door at night with a chair. The cameras never saw anything. Nothing. It was like he was a ghost. The breaking point was the music box. A little porcelain ballerina my grandmother gave me. It sat on my dresser. I came home one Tuesday, and it was playing. That tiny, tinny melody filled the silent house. I hadn't wound it in years. I ran to my room and grabbed it. I was going to smash it. And that's when I saw the tiny, almost invisible hole drilled in the bottom. I pried it open. Inside, amidst the gears, was a tiny wireless microphone. I tore my house apart. I found another one in the smoke detector in the hallway. A tiny pinhole camera in the frame of a painting. He wasn't a ghost. He was a technician, a collector. I called the police, hysterical. They came, saw the devices, and for the first time, looked scared. This wasn't a prank. This was a level of obsession they didn't see often. They told me to pack a bag and go to a hotel. They said they'd have a car patrol the area all night. As I was throwing clothes into a suitcase in my bedroom, my cell phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I answered. Hello. You're leaving so soon. After all the trouble I went to make us a home. It was him. His real voice. It was in my ear. In my head. He wasn't on the phone line. He was. Don't go. The police will leave. They always do. And I'll be waiting. I'm always here. I screamed and threw the phone. His voice was coming from inside the room. I spun around, tearing at the walls, ripping drawers out of my nightstand. I found it finally taped to the underside of a drawer. A small, flat speaker. As I stood there holding it, his voice came out one last time, a soft, gentle whisper. Man's voice. I'll miss you. I ran. I left. Everything. I never went back. The police never found him. The house was sold. I moved across the country. I changed my number. I got a new name. I live in an apartment now. No landline. I check for bugs every week. I'm safe. I have to be. But last night my new phone rang at 3:07 a.m. I didn't answer it. I never do. I just let it go to voicemail. This morning, I played it. It was just 5 seconds of silence. And then, right at the end, the faint sound of a familiar melody. A tiny, tinny music box. Playing our song. There's nothing like the silence of the deep woods. A real silence, miles from the nearest paved road. That's what my best friend Leo and I were looking for. We wanted a weekend off the grid in Gifford Pinchot National Forest. Just us, our tent, and a case of cheap beer. We hiked 6 miles to a perfect spot by a creek and set up camp as the sun went down. We laughed and told silly jokes while the fire cast wild shadows on the trees. It felt perfect. But then the silence struck me as odd. Real silence in the woods isn't real at all. There's always life. But around midnight, the crickets just stopped. It wasn't that they were done, it was as if someone pressed a mute button. The wind also died down. All we could hear was the creek and our fire. Leo joked that a bear might be nearby. We fell silent and listened. That's when we heard the first snap of a twig. It was too close to be a deer. We both froze. I grabbed my flashlight and shone it into the darkness beyond our fire. Nothing. Leo stood up, puffed out his chest, and called out, "Hello." His voice was swallowed by the trees. There was no echo. Nothing. Then, from the same direction, we heard it back. It was his voice. Exactly, but it was wrong. It didn't carry his tone. It was just a sound. Like a recording replayed by something that didn't understand its meaning. "Who's there?" Leo yelled, his brave front now tinged with fear. Again, a perfect, lifeless copy replied, "Who's there?" This time, it was closer. Much closer. Right at the edge of the tree line. We didn't say a word. We backed toward the tent, our eyes fixed on the shadows. My heart raced. This wasn't a bear. This was something else. We spent the next hour in the tent, clutching our knives, not speaking. We heard footsteps circling our camp. Slow, heavy, bipedal steps. They would stop for a few minutes, then start again. Whatever it was patient. Then the worst part began. Hey, man. Let me in. It's right behind me. Please, open the flap. I lunged for the zipper, but Leo grabbed my wrist. His face was pale with fear. He put a finger to his lips, his eyes wide, silently screaming no. "It's me." The voice outside pleaded, now sounding like it was crying. "Why are you locking me out? It's coming. Please." It was his voice. It sounded just like him, terrified and begging for help. I was seconds from tearing the tent open, believing he had somehow gotten out. But Leo's grip on my wrist was iron tight. He shook his head, tears in his eyes. He was right next to me. The thing outside fell silent. We sat there, huddled together, for what felt like forever. The only sound was our heavy breathing in the creek. Then, we heard a different sound. A slow, dragging noise. Like something heavy being pulled away from the tent, through the dirt and pine needles. We didn't sleep. We didn't move. At the first hint of dawn, we unzipped the tent. The fire was out. Our camp chairs lay overturned. And leading from the front of our tent into the woods was a deep, wide drag mark. Beside it was a set of footprints. But they weren't right. The toes were too long, splayed out like claws. And the stride was wrong, too wide for a human. We packed up in under 2 minutes and ran. We didn't stop until we reached the trailhead 6 miles later. We never talked about it. Not really. What was there to say? We both knew what we heard. But a month later, Leo called me. His voice was shaky. He'd been looking through the photos on his phone from that trip. Most were blurry and dark, useless. But there was one. A selfie we took by the fire, grinning like idiots just before sunset. And in the background, just over my shoulder, deep in the trees where we thought there was only shadow, there's a figure. Tall and painfully thin. Its skin is pale and seems to glow in the dusk. It has no clear face. Just a dark, smudged area where a face should be. And it's standing perfectly still, watching us. I moved to the city. I don't go into the woods anymore. But sometimes, late at night when the street is quiet, I hear a neighbor calling out to someone. Or a dog barking. For a split second, before my mind catches up, it sounds wrong. Hollow. Like a perfect copy made by something that doesn't understand. And I wonder if it's still out there, in the silence, learning.